Okay, this looks to be a poem looking for the smallest spark of everything. Always read the excerpt up above. Located underground near Geneva, Switzerland, the Large Hadron Collider helps scientists study and understand how the smallest particles of matter interact with one another. LHC propels atomic particle beams along a 17-mile long ring. So, okay, that's giving us good background information on the topic of this particular poem. So let's take a look. There are things the world is made of, things we can see and feel, and then there are things even smaller, things that seem to exist only when we are looking right at them. So what's this first stanza indicating? That the things we see and feel that we notice in our world, they're actually smaller things that make up all those things, right? And we can't actually even see them unless we really, really focus looking at them. Next stanza. So beneath the level of molecules are atoms, and beneath the level of atoms we find protons, electrons, neutrons. And beneath that, what exactly? Continuing the idea that there are small things we have to look at directly and naming some of them. Because we are talking about everything here, your fingernail, the candy at the back of your mouth, the coffee your teacher drank this morning, your little sister, and the stuffed dog she used to carry around with her everywhere, and everywhere. So there's some repetition there between everywhere and everywhere, which might be important and come into play here. And it's pointing out that just sort of natural everyday items here, your mouth, your coffee cup, your little sister, stuffed dog, etc., the molecules, the atoms, they all make up these things. Okay? Next stanza. Everything and everywhere, repeated again. So they're kind of emphasizing it's really everything. Are made up of the same stuff, whatever it is. How do we find it? So before the last stanza asked, what are those things? Now we're asking, in this stanza, how do we find it? We can listen for it in the wavelengths from deep space, talking back to us from unimaginable distances, or we can build long, deep circular tunnels beneath the surface of the Earth and race particles like racing cars, only very tiny cars flashing along at close to the speed of light, until everything we know, everything we think we know, bangs against everything else we know. Okay, so what's going on here? They're answering the question of how do we find it? Basically through a Hadron Collider, for example. Next stanza. And there, in the explosion, in the darkness, briefly incandescent, they appear. The quarks, the leptons, the bosons, the baryons, the mesons. Their names sound like dinosaurs or maybe garage bands, maybe bands playing terrible music in someone's garage. Okay? So it's saying we have to collide these particles together within these particle colliders to make even more smaller particles to study them and to figure out what they are, or literally it says they appear, to see them. It's kind of poking fun at their names. They sound like dinosaurs or a garage band. Next stanza. The one thing we know for sure is that they spin. This is how gravity enters our world, how our world is held both together and apart, what keeps together the pencil in your hand right now, as well as separate from, say, Jupiter. They spin and is only down there in the darkness, in the vast garage where physicists jot down what they can, whatever seems most real, that they let us perceive their wild dancing, combusting to the music they make. Okay, so what's this stanza about? We know that they spin. This is gravity enters the world. So what we know about them is important because it tells us, very far apart ideas are connected. Jupiter and the pencil in your hand, right? And the physicists are learning. They're jotting down and recording their information, right? We're beginning to perceive what makes up the elements of this world. Okay? So I think we have an idea of what's going on in this poem. The world's made up of things we can see and feel, but they're even smaller things. We have to look right at them. Beneath that, the smaller things in the second stanza are atoms, molecules, various particles of nature, and they encompass everything, every ordinary thing you might even think of. And it repeats everything and everywhere to point that out. Then it asks the question not what they are, but what they make up of. What they make up But how do we find them? And it says we can either look into deep space or we can build colliders, like the Hadron Collider. It doesn't say that, but that's part of our excerpt from the beginning. And it says how we do that. We speed them around and bang them into each other. And at that moment, they appear. And we find or see new particles, right? So author is probably himself somehow enthusiast of science, seems to have a positive, favorable attitude towards the topic. Let's go ahead and answer the questions.